Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's English First Additional Language lesson. My name is Marina Seeley. I'm standing in for Ma'am Karabo Satay today, and this lesson is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Saibono Discovery Centre. Today we are looking at paper 2, and we are focusing on My Children, My Africa, the drama. Let's recap quickly. The drama consists of 35 marks, and that you will find in section B of your question paper. You need to answer the question on the drama that you have studied. Remember, there's more than one in the prelim and in the final. So make sure that you choose the one or select the one that you have studied throughout the year. You may answer any one question from the section. The drama would be question 3 or question 4, depending on the drama that you have studied during the course of the term. So let's recap quickly. What is a drama? A drama is a script or a dialogue. It has stage directions, extremely important. It has a specific setting or a place. It has a plot. And in that plot, you will find conflict. And the conflict is what makes the story run. In other words, it causes tension, and that is why people, an audience would experience tension build up through the course of the play. Then it would lead to the climax of that plot. Very important are the characters. Remember, a play cannot exist without characters. And then a gentle reminder, you need to visualize the stage and the setting. I'm sure that most of you had the opportunity to watch a live play or a live show of one of the plays that you have done, or you might have watched a recording of the play My Children, My Africa. You also need to try and hear the tone of voice of each character. Remember, very often it's not what they are saying, but how they say it. And that will lead the next character to react. Try to imagine the character's emotions. Put yourself in their shoes so that you actually make it your own. That makes it so much easier to understand. You need to form a mental picture of the actor's moments on the stage, and that includes the movements. Let's take a look at My Children, My Africa. Literally, My Children refers to the young characters in the play, particularly the students of Mr. M, the dedicated teacher. It highlights the direct relationship between Mr. M and his students, whom he cares for deeply and sees as his own children in an educational and moral sense. My Africa literally refers to the continent of Africa, specifically South Africa, where the play is set. It reflects Mr. M's personal connection to his homeland and his sense of belonging and responsibility towards it. Let's take a look at the figurative meaning. Now, My Children, figuratively, represents the future generations of South Africans. It symbolizes hope, potential, and the promise of a better future. Mr. M's use of My Children conveys his role as a mentor and guardian, nurturing the next generation to rise above the challenges posed by apartheid and social injustice. My Africa figuratively embodies the broader struggle for freedom, equality, and justice in South Africa. It signifies the collective identity and shared destiny of the people. The possessive my indicates a deep emotional and personal investment in the country's future, reflecting the pride, pain, and aspirations of those fighting for change. So, there in essence is the title. Every African soul is either carrying a bundle or is in it. They are either victims themselves or they are carrying a victim. What is wrong with this world that it wants to waste you like that? My children, my Africa. Of course, it was written by Ethel Fugard. Let's break open the quote. Every South African soul is either carrying a bundle or in it. Literally, that would mean suggests that every African person is either burdened with responsibilities and hardships, in other words, like carrying a heavy bundle, or is trapped within those burdens. In other words, they are part of it, they are in it. The bundle symbolizes the weight of struggles such as poverty, oppression, and the fight for survival. Every African soul is either carrying a bundle or in it. Figuratively, it highlights the pervasive nature of suffering and challenges faced by Africans. It implies that no one is untouched by these difficulties, whether they are actively dealing with them or are overwhelmed by them. What is wrong with this world that it wants to waste you like that? Literally, it means a deep frustration and sorrow about the state of the world. It questions why the world allows such waste of human potential and life. Figuratively, it reflects a broader critique of societal and systemic injustices. Big words, those, né? So, societal from society and systemic injustices. In other words, the system in which they have to live that lead to the squandering of human potential. Squandering is the wasting of human potential. It laments, it's sad about the loss of opportunities and the devaluation of lives due to these injustices. In other words, devaluation made less important. Let's take a look at an extract. That is when Isabel meets Mr. M after a hockey game. Isabel says, "Sorry, Mr. M, sorry, the game started late." Mr. M, "I haven't been waiting long." Isabel unburdens herself and collapses with a groan. "Did you win?" "No, we played a team of friendly Afrikaans-speaking young Amazons from Janssenville, and they licked us hollow. 4-1. Goodness, they were fit and fast. They ran circles around us on that hockey field. I felt so stupid. I kept saying to myself, it's only a game, Isabel. Relax, enjoy it, have a good time. But no, there I was, swearing under my breath at poor little Hilary Castle for being slow and not getting into position for my passes. You want to know something terrible? A couple of times I actually wanted to go over and hit her with my hockey stick. Isn't that awful? It's no good, Mr. M. I've got to face it. I'm a bad loser. Got any advice for me on how to be a good one? Isabel, Yeah, how to lose graciously with dignity. I mean it. I really wish I could, Mr. M. If I did have advice for you, Isabel, I think I would be well advised to try it out on myself first. Why? You want as well? Mr. M nods. I don't believe it. And that comes from Act 1, Scene 5. Now let's take a look at the action word explain. Now remember, action words are found in questions. And those words will lead you on what to actually answer. And here I would actually suggest get that highlighter of yours ready or a colored pen ready so that when you get to the analysis of the questions that you know you cover all your bases. So let's take a look at the word explain. Explain means to make clear or plain, giving details about how and why something is the way it is, perhaps using a step-by-step approach. So make meaning clear, give details on how and why something is the way it is. If you explain something, you give details about it or describe it so that it can be understood. In other words, to show understanding. Do you understand what you've said? So let's take a look at an example. 4.1.1. Explain why Isabel refers to the opposing team as Amazons in line 5. Now, grade 12 learner, you need to go back to the text. Do not assume that you are not allowed to go back, or do not assume that you've actually read everything in those lines. Make sure that you understand it. What happened before, what happened after, and why does she say they are Amazons? Now, let's take a look at explain. I'll give reasons there, make it plain. Why Isabel refers to the opposing team as Amazons. What do you know about Amazons? Their opponents were so big or strong or quick. Because if we think about Amazons, those are ladies there who are huge. They're like terribly big. That they could be compared to the warrior women in Greek mythology who were renowned for their huge build, strength, and swiftness. Now, figures of speech will be questions on how to identify and discuss, and this is applicable to all the genres. A simile or a metaphor, personification, hyperbole or euphemism, onomatopoeia, alliteration or assonance, irony, sarcasm. Let's take a look at simile and metaphor. When you compare two things, simile using as or like, metaphor without. Personification, when an inanimate thing is given animate characteristics. Hyperbole, hyper, that is when you exaggerate. And then a euphemism is when something is said a little more softly, a little more manageable. Onomatopoeia, that is the sound effects. Alliteration, the repetition of consonant sounds. Assonance would be the repetition of vowel sounds. And then irony and sarcasm. Irony, when one thing is said and actually the opposite applies. And sarcasm, we all know about sarcasm. When something is said and it is meant to hurt or inflict some kind of hurt. Now, the methodology for answering questions on figures of speech is I identify the figure of speech, write it down. D, describe the two things compared and be specific. And E, explain why the poet or the author has used this figure of speech. IDE. Identify, describe, and explain. Let's take a look at a question. Refer to lines 6 to 7. They ran circles around us on the hockey field. Identify the figure of speech used in these lines. Yes, you guessed it. It is a metaphor. It could also be a hyperbole because they ran circles around us. Explain why this figure of speech is relevant in this extract. It is because their opponents were faster and better than them, 1 mark, as if running in circles that cannot be reached. It traces its origins in a horse running around a riding ring faster than others. Right, so very important, be specific, state the obvious, and then explain. Ooh, tone. Tone is such a difficult thing. Tone would refer to the emotion that is attached to how something is said and not necessarily what is said. How something is said. Tone of voice is not about what you say, but how you say it. It is the attitude or the emotion that someone has in their voice. Tone of voice shows how the speaker feels about something. Think about a common example from your own life. If your mother is upset with you, she will most probably have a strict tone. All right. Let's take a look at a question on tone. Refer to lines 13 to 14. Isn't that awful? And then ellipse and then a bad loser. Now, yet again, grade 12, you need to go back to the text. You can't just take the first 3 words and the last 3 words. You need to go back to the text. Remember, it refers to line 13 to 14. So go back and read the full line again. The first question, what tone would Isabel use in these lines for 1 mark? She would be remorseful or regretful. Remember, she doesn't like being a loser, bad loser, but she is. So she's regretful or remorseful. What does she actually want? She wants to be a good loser. She wants to be happy for the opposing side. Second part of the question, why would Isabel use this tone in these lines? She regretted hurting others by allowing her frustration or her anger to control her. Or she acknowledges her poor sportsmanship and seeks advice on becoming a better loser. Another question that you might come across, or definitely will come across in your question paper, would be about the analysis of character. A character analysis is an exploration of traits, characteristics, personality, and characteristics of a character within a story. A character analysis will look at the conflicts a character faces, their overall role within the story, and their traits. Remember, we are never in isolation. It's always you, your emotions, and your response to what is happening in the world around you. Character traits are defined as the individual qualities that make up a person's overall character. These descriptions can be physical, emotional, mental, or even moral. Every person is made up of different traits or qualities, and these can only change over the course of someone's life. How do we analyze the questions? Character traits. A character trait is not an action. It is a quality. He is, not he does. So when you respond to a question such as this, you must indicate he is rather than he does. It's nothing to do with what he does at this point. He is bad or he is good. Let's take a look at a question. What does this extract reveal about Mr. M's character? And then they also ask you to substantiate your answer. In other words, explain, give reasons why you say what you say. Character traits, a character trait is not an action. He is, not he does. He is patient, he is understanding or flexible, as he did not complain when he had to wait for Isabel. He admitted to being a bad loser, like Isabel as well. So there are two possibilities. And remember, the highlighted text shows you where the marks are allocated. So it is differentiated. What does this extract reveal about Isabel's character? Substantiate your answer. Again, give reasons or explain your answer. Remember, character traits is not an action. He is, or in this case, she is, not she does. So what does it reveal about Isabel? She's honest, competitive, reflective, humorous, and respectful. She's funny, but she's also respectful. She apologizes to Mr. M for being late. She admits to being a bad loser. She seeks his advice and values his opinion, indicating a mentor-learner relationship. So she's eager to learn and develop. Now we get to the open-ended questions, and in this question you have to refer to the whole story. In other words, you have to think about the drama as a whole. Discuss your view. Is this statement true? These are possible questions. Discuss your view. Is this statement true? What do you think? The moment a question starts like that, you know that this is an open-ended kind of question, and you need to actually delve a little deeper and in your response to what you've read in the play as a whole. Give reasons for your answer. So in every instance, whatever statement you make, you have to give reasons based on the text, in this case, the text as a whole, but then also include your opinion. But remember, your opinion must be based on what is there. You can't refer to something general. It has to be specific. Open-ended questions encourage learners to explain their answers in their own words. Extremely important. In this case, you cannot quote a full couple of lines or even a paragraph. You have to use your own words here without restriction. It's your opinion. What do you think? A relevant response which shows an understanding of the drama. This is very important. Remember, you can show or discuss your opinion, your interpretation, but yet again, base it on the text. That is where you take it from. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. Refer to the whole story, think about the whole drama. You can use, the moment I ask you about discuss your view, you can think about using the Peel method. Let's just recap quickly what the Peel method is all about. Peel refers to P for making a point, E for giving evidence, I said from the text, explain, in other words, you give reasons why, and then you link it to the topic. The Peel structure is used to make opinions and findings clear. And if you just remember Peel, and at this stage, it's not only for English. You can actually apply this to all of your subjects where you have to explain and give reasons. Think about making a point, give an example, in other words, give evidence, explain, and then you link it. In other words, bring it back to what the question requires. There's just a prettier way of thinking, looking at the peel method. You peel that banana, you make a point, you back it up, support your point with evidence and examples. You explain how the evidence supports your point, and then you link this point to the next point in the following paragraph, or in this case, to the main point. Bring it back to the question so that you are sure that you've actually responded to the question rather than made generalized statements. Consider the drama as a whole or the scenes that you have studied. Do you sympathize with Isabel? Discuss your view. Now, this is an open-ended question. We accept relevant responses which shows an understanding of the following viewpoints, among others. So you'll see that the marking guidelines or the responses are broader. Because remember, this is about you and your interpretation. So if you said yes, you could say she has to deal with Mr. M, who is trying to use her as his spy. She loses Mr. M, who was like a father to her. And then she loses Tammy, her close friend, to the armed struggle. Remember, this is to the drama as a whole. So it doesn't refer to the extract that you have discussed or the extract that you had in the question paper. This now refers to the play as a whole. Another question, consider the drama as a whole or the scenes you have studied. Do you sympathize with Isabel? Discuss your view. It's open-ended. We've done through that. If your response is no, you could say the following. Isabel and her debating team think learners at Xolile High do not speak good English. You could also say she says one thing and does the opposite by throwing her frustrations at an innocent teammate. She did not try hard enough to be more involved in Mr. M's life to assist him in his hour of need. So you can give a yes and a no. Just remember, you do not get credited for yes or no, only the discussion of your view. For full marks, the response must be well substantiated. Peel method. Make a point, give an example, explain, and link it. A candidate can score 1 to 2 marks for a response which is not well substantiated. And it's very important. We often see that candidates lose marks because they answer in almost monosyllables. They either say yes or no, you don't get a mark for that. So sorry, you're not going to get the mark. A question like this will most probably count 3. So you need to make sure that you mention 3 things. And that is where the Peel method comes into play. The interpretation of your response must be grounded in the text or the drama. We can't emphasize that enough. Tommy, he doesn't open his eyes and ears and see what is happening around him or listen to what the people are saying. This is now another extract. Isabel, what are they saying? Tommy, they've got no patience left, Isabel. They want change and they want it now. But he agrees with that. He never stops saying it himself. Tommy, no. His idea about change are old-fashioned ones. And what have they achieved? Nothing. We are worse off than we ever were. The people don't want to listen to his kind of talk anymore. I'm still lost, Tommy. What sort of talk is that? You've just heard it, Isabel. It calls out our struggle vandalism and lawless behavior. It's the sort of talk that expects us to do nothing and wait quietly for white South Africa to wake up. If we listen to it, our grandchildren still won't know what it means to be free. Knowledge question. Why does Tommy refer to Mr. M's ideas as old-fashioned? 2 marks. Tommy means that Mr. M's approach towards Bantu education is ineffective because it hasn't worked. He feels that change can be possible only if they use violence, as opposed to Mr. M's way in using words and discourse, in other words, conversation. Why is the following statement false? Tommy and his comrades referred to the struggle as isiqalo, which means the movement. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Isiqalo refers to the beginning. An irony question. Refer to lines 11 to 13. You've just heard up to wake up. A reminder again, you need to go back to the text and make sure that you've actually read the full lines. You cannot only depend on the words in the question. What tone would Tommy use in these lines? Tone again. What emotion, attitude is attached? Not what he says, but how he says it. He is frustrated, he's annoyed, he's angry. And please try and use interesting words, better than angry or sad or happy. You know that these kind of questions are going to crop up. So make sure that you've got a couple of words that you could actually use in the context of the play. Why would Tommy use this tone in these lines? He feels frustrated because Mr. M undermines their fight against the apartheid system and calls it lawless behavior. Whenever a person says something that differs from what they or we expect them to say, that is actually the formula for irony or a definition. Whenever a person does something that differs from what they or we expect them to do. So it not only refers to what they say, it would also refer to what they do. You sometimes say something and then you do the opposite. Explain the irony in Tommy's words, that is our decision, our choice, in line 23. Tommy says that he has decided, but the decision was made by the Political Action Committee and the comrades and not by him. In other words, he joined, and because he joined, he is kind of not forced, but he has to now also join the fight. Our decision, our choice. It wasn't his to make, but he joined the movement or the committee. Explain the irony in Tommy's words, that is our decision, our choice. Tommy says that he has decided, but the decision was made by the political action or the committee or the comrades. Both parts should be included to earn the mark. Right, so you cannot only answer one part of it. So if you, for example, say the decision was made by the Political Action Committee or the comrades and does not include or you do not include that Tommy says that he has decided, then you only get half of the mark. So sometimes it's like stating the obvious, but you need to pretend that there's no prior knowledge when you come to the marker. Theme questions. How to analyze the question. Now, the theme refers to the message, the underlying message or the big idea for this play or literary work to be written. The theme is timeless and universal. One of the themes in My Children, My Africa is friendship. Very important, you highlight that word. Discuss this theme. The discussion of the theme of friendship should include the following points, among others. The school debate sets the scene for the budding friendship of Tommy Mbekwana and Isabel Dyson. They develop a meaningful relationship when they exchange information and meet regularly to practice for the literary quiz. Their friendship, however, is subjected to immense strain when Tommy decides to withdraw from the literary quiz and joins the school boycott. Their friendship withstands the test of time when Tommy jeopardizes his life to come and bid farewell to Isabel, and they part as friends. For full marks, the response must be well substantiated. What does that mean? You need to take the proof from the text. You can score 1 or 2 marks for a response which is not well substantiated. So you'll get your 1 or 2 marks. But if you are working for a distinction, or you know that you are working and you need to pass this, and this is actually easier to pass than any of the other question papers, except for paper 3, of course, then you know that you can, as long as you mention as much as possible, then you will get your marks without actually rewriting the script. That is very important. No repetition. The candidate's interpretation must be grounded in the novel. I'm going to say that again. Any opinion you have, anything that you discuss, it must be grounded in the text. You cannot make universal statements, especially with something like themes. It's very, very easy to digress and make a universal statement, but not bring it back to the text itself. Another open-ended type of question. Do you admire Tommy? Discuss your view. This is open-ended. We accept a relevant response which shows an understanding of the following aspects, among others. What does it mean, among others? These are possible guidelines, but the marker will actually read your response and decide whether this is applicable. If your answer is yes, you could refer to the fact that Tommy, together with the other comrades, feel that the education they receive is inferior. In other words, not as of high quality. He sees Bantu education as a trap set to catch their minds. It takes courage for Tommy to warn Mr. M that the comrades are going to kill him. He's putting his life on the line, basically. He is a natural leader who can easily influence people. He joins the school boycotts and he's loyal to the struggle. If your response were no, you could say Tommy is not courageous enough to share his viewpoints with Mr. M. He never discusses it. He lacks the courage to approach the comrades directly to exonerate Mr. M. Instead, he turns to Mr. M to deny the accusations leveled at him. He refuses to acknowledge that Mr. M is important to him. A couple of last thoughts. As we wrap up our discussion on Athol Fugard's My Children, My Africa, let's remember the play's call for education, dialogue, and unity. May we all strive to be agents of positive change in our communities. I thank you, and I do hope that you found this very interesting and that you could actually go back to your question papers to practice your question papers. Because remember, at the end of the day, it is all about making sure that you know what the questions require. Thank you.